let's do some time travel. No pun intended.
Let's do it. Let's take them back.
Let's take him back. All right, I'm going to take him back. There's a group called Grand Central,
Yes.
right, that seems to be a big part of the route. And that's a group that you were in Minneapolis. Can you tell us about how you got in this group called Grand Central?
Absolutely.
And how that whole thing started.
So the thing is, and I don't want to give up too much because y'all still got to buy the book. You know what I mean? A lot of it's in the book, but I'm gonna take yeah, nice. Okay, nice. Well, now you got to read the book. And I don't want to tell you the book before you read it. Okay, so Grand Central, I was in high school. I was going to a high school dance, which they were holding in the cafeteria at North High, and I was going to see a girl. And I get there, and this band is playing. And these are like 14-year-old, teenagers, and I just stopped to look at them for a minute. Prince is on lead guitar, andre.cymone on bass, his sister Linda on keyboards, Will Dowdy on, and these are people, some of the names you might not know, on congas, and Terry Jackson on timbales. And they were playing Santana, Hendrix. Prince was doing these guitar solos. He was 14 years old. He was playing like he's 25. And the whole band was just incredible. Unbelievable. And so I forgot all about the girl. And I'm sitting there looking at the band, and I was mesmerized. And so after that, I kind of started turning myself into a stalker. Because, I got to know andre.cymone. I said, I got to get to know these guys. I got to know Andre. We were in the same grade, basically, and he might have been behind me a year or two. But we started hanging out. And, I just told him how great I thought the band was. And I told him I played drums. And he's like, yeah, okay. One day we're skipping school. We go over to my house. I have my drums set up. I have this really big speaker cabinet behind it that I played all my music on the turntable so I could, and I was a big Tower of Power fan, and so I love Dave Garibaldi. So Soul Vaccination, What Is Hip. I don't even think they had gotten the Squib Cakes yet because that ended up being one of my favorites. So I ripped a little Soul Vaccination and some What Is Hip for him. And I stopped playing, and Andre's sitting there. And his eyes are kind of stretched. He's looking at me. I was like, yeah, what's up? He said, I didn't know you played the drums. He said, I didn't know you could play like that. And he said, we just so happen to be having problems with our drummer, Charles Smith, who was Prince's cousin. He said, you should, bring your drums by and audition because we're looking for a new drummer. So I took my drums by. I set them up. I played a few cuts for him, and my drums never left. And I never left, and I was in the band ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, was Prince the virtuoso at that stage, or is that something that he grew into from the moment you...
I think Prince was born a virtuoso. That was the time that I met him, but when I got in the band, he was playing keyboards like nobody's business. He used to duet with his dad in church, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so, his dad brought him in. He played keyboards in church, and then he was already, like I said, he had already mastered the guitar. And so he was just incredible. And not only that, Prince was Prince. He was very strange back then, I was in the band for like 2 weeks, and he never said a word to me. He only talked arrangements. We talked about arrangements. Other than that, he would just be looking at me. And, I would be, first we started at Terry Jackson's house rehearsing in their basement. He'd be in the doorway in the dark, and I'm standing there, and I feel these eyes looking at me. And he wouldn't say it. I'm like, so dude, what's up? So, eventually, and it took maybe months before he actually started talking to me directly. He kind of talked to me through other band members, Yeah, tell the drummer to... I'm like, I'm good with that, So, Prince was Prince. That's all I got to say. He didn't start acting that way as an adult. He had always been that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he was already a very accomplished,
Very accomplished
instrumentalist
accomplished.
in high school.
Yes, and at that point, when I got in the band at 14, he told me he already had 100 songs
Wow.
written. Yeah, in his little binder. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Now, your mother, LaVon Darty,
Yes.
she was the manager, right, at
Yes.
one time?
Yes.
And so I always take an interest in all these moms that managed groups, you know, and the work that you don't necessarily see when you buy the album of what kind of responsibilities and how did she kind of navigate doing that kind of work for the group, you know, being in school and all those other things that go along with being in family.
Yeah, she didn't really have any experience as a manager, but I had to prove myself. We had to prove ourselves because she knew I played, and she bought me a drum set to keep me from tearing up the furniture because I was taking them wooden cooking spoons. Back in the day, they looked like drumsticks on the other end. So I would beat on the couch, on the edge of the couch, and tear up the furniture and all that. And so finally, she got me a drum set, and then down in the basement, I would play until my signal from her was she would flick the light switch. So the lights in the basement would flicker, and I knew I had to stop. So I got good eventually. And then I got in the band, and I told her I was in a band, no big deal, but then she heard the band. And she pretty much had the same response that I had the first time I heard the band before I was in the band. So what she did for us was really helped us pool our money to get good equipment, and helped us get the gigs and get new guitars and new drum sets instead of just wasting the money and all that stuff. So she was really instrumental in helping us really get good gear so we could really help ourselves get a better sound and things like that. And then she was taking meetings. I think she met with Isaac Hayes. That was a big deal for us one time. But my mom was a good-looking woman. I think Isaac was really more interested in her than the band, to be honest, So nothing came of that.
Never came of that. No.
That I know of.